is 12 o'clock. Thank you for joining us at this time. You are watching news analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Now to the top stories. President Bola Tinubu says to inaugurate Sokoto-Badagry Coastal Highway construction. I don't want to be Atiku's running mate 2027, says Governor Doye Jire. Labour private sector protests again over hike on tariff. Details coming up shortly. Welcome back, Nigeria. I am Amina Idris. Now to the news. President Bola Tinubu is scheduled to inaugurate the construction work of the 1,000-kilometer Sokoto-Badagry Coastal Highway in August. The Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, disclosed this during a stakeholder engagement on the project in Birnin Kebbi. Umahi said that he was directed by the President to come to Kebbi with some ministers and members of the National Assembly to unveil the scope of the project. The House of Representatives has resolved to investigate promotion stagnation in the Federal Civil Service from 2013 to 2023. The resolution was a sequel to a motion moved by Representative Salman Idris, the Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Agri-Colleges and Institutions in Abuja. He said that promotion remained a progression of civil servants as well as a motivational incentive for productivity. Idris decried the incessant stagnation in promotions across ministries, departments, and agencies of government. The governor of Bayelsa State, Doye Jire, said on Wednesday that he is not interested in being a running mate to ex-Vice President Atiku Abubakar for the 2027 presidential election. A statement by Jire's chief press secretary, Daniel Alabra, on Wednesday said a faceless group, which sarcastically named itself Diri Angels, in a statement had made the suggestion to Alhaji Abubakar. Atiku was the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 presidential election, which he lost to President Bola Tinubu of the All Progressive Congress. Diri said God had always guided him on his political journey and he was not swayed by any advocacy that was inconsistent with his godly and political principles. You are watching news analysis live on Politics and Business Television. Still to come, Labour private sector protest again over hike on tariff. Details of this and more coming up after the break. Thank you for staying tuned. Now to Labour matters. The Nigeria Labour Congress, Trade Union Congress, and organized private sector on Wednesday faulted the latest hike in the electricity tariff payable by customers in the Band A category. Following the depreciation of the Naira against the United States dollar and inflation, among other factors, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission again raised the tariff payable by Band A customers. On Wednesday, some distribution companies, including Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company, Eco Electricity Distribution Company, and Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company, among others, announced an award reviews of their tariffs for Band A from 206 naira 80 kobo per kilometer per hour to 209 naira 80 kobo per kilometer per hour. Now to educational matters. The authorities of the University of Benin on Thursday shut down academic activities in the institution indefinitely. The university, in a statement by its public relations officer, Dr. Benedicta Enahire, attributed the decision to the refusal of the students to shift grounds on their demands. The News Agency of Nigeria recalls that the students on Wednesday took to the streets, blocking the ever-busy Benin-Ore highway to protest weeks of power outages on campus. The students, who had 2 weeks until their first semester examination, said the situation was severely affecting their preparation. The students also called for a downward review of transport fares by the Uniben shuttle service, which was increased with effect from July. You are watching news analysis live on Politics and Business Television. We shall be going for a quick break, and when we are back, we will be joined live by Mr. Adefolarin, who will be analyzing our topic, exemptions of small and medium enterprises and manufacturing from VAT and its impact on economy. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. I am Amina Idris. There was no major segregation between small, medium, and large companies for tax purposes in Nigeria prior to the introduction of the Finance Act 2019. All companies were subjected to income tax at the rate of 30% based on the provisions of the Companies Income Tax Act, except companies engaged in agriculture, mining and manufacturing with a turnover of less than 1 million naira. In Nigeria, the CIT Act, as amended by the FA 2019, defines a small company as a company with a turnover of less than 25 million naira in a year, a medium company, turnover between 25 million and 100 million naira, and a large company, turnover above 100 million naira. With the rising rate of unemployment in Nigeria, which was estimated at 37.7% in 2021, there has been a rise in the number of startups in different sectors of the Nigerian economy. These small and medium enterprises have been credited with reduced unemployment, innovation, and an overall boost in the country's economy. As a result, the federal government of Nigeria, through the Finance Act, introduced some tax incentives to support the growth of SMEs by reducing their tax compliance and payments burden. Some of the tax incentives are exemption from payment of companies' income tax and tertiary education tax, exemption from payment of tax on dividends from small manufacturing companies, exemption from payment of minimum tax, exemption from compliance with the provisions of the Value Added Tax Act. And today with me to discuss this topic, I have Mr. Adefolarin Olamilekon, an economist and lead researcher at Analytics, who is an economic analyst. Good afternoon, Mr. Folarin.
Thanks for having me. Very good afternoon to our viewers, Ade.
How are you doing?
Very great, my sister.
How is the Nigerian economy doing to you today?
For me, the economy is not smiling. All right.
For you to say the economy is not smiling, what do you think the poor people in the society are saying?
Definitely, everybody is complaining about the high cost of living, particularly transportation, food, and other basic items. So those are the things that the lower bottom of the society strive for. Even the rich also strive for food and the rest of them. But at this point in time, the high cost of it is driving most families away from getting their basic needs as expected.
That's very true. Thank you very much, Mr. Adefolarin.
Thank you.
Let me ask you first, just how much impact will this exemption have on these sectors?
Definitely, it will have a great impact on them. But because of the business environment that we have in Nigeria, even though the government have exempted them from some basic tax that they're supposed to be paying, that will not also stop them from complaining, because the major complaint about production cost is much on the high side of terms of energy, in terms of transportation, and in terms of sourcing for material. The removing of tax from businesses not to pay is good in a way, but it's not the actual way of ensuring that we have an ease of doing businesses in Nigeria. After all, most of them, they still commit tax evasion by not paying the actual tax they're supposed to pay. But on the long run, we allow the government from exempting them, but we just hope that the government also have another means of recovering what they have lost in one way or the other, because now it's about reduction in government revenue. Because if you have exempted 1,001 businesses from paying particular tax, it means that you have lost certain revenue that would have used to take care of certain activities in a country. That is just my view on that.
That is very true. We pray this is a start-up for the government.
Definitely.
Maybe by the end of the year, more will come. So, isn't this economy too little, too late, considering the high operating costs that have grinded most businesses?
Although we as I said earlier, we commend the government for initiating this kind of move by exempting some companies from tax, but that exempting them is not the real challenge they are faced. The real challenge they are faced, as earlier said, is the other productive cost that is on their shelf, in terms of what they spend on diesel, what they spend in buying spare parts for their machines, their equipment, and what they spend on forex in terms of importing certain material for their production. So that one alone is more huge than the 30%, 5%, 20%, or 15% they pay annually for tax. But it's a good move. But for me, as I earlier pointed out, because if there's one thing for government to remove and say these people are not paying this tax again, so where will government get revenue to fill up the gap that they have now exempted these people? But the businesses, they need something to be able to stay aloof or to stay in business. Yes. Although removing them from tax is not the actual energy they really need. What the every energy they need is how government can really help them to reduce the cost of their production, in terms of how to provide electricity regularly, how to ensure that roads are good to aid their transportation, and also how to ensure that tariff they pay on equipment they import and other complementary goods they import to produce are also reduced.
I'm learning a lot from you. Thank you very much, sir. So why is this government doing try and error policy as far as this economy is concerned?
If you say try and error policy, I may not agree to that, because all policy are meant to have a positive side and a negative side. It's not all the time that you see government policy addressing challenges as expected. Because one thing from policy circle angle is that when government will do a policy, the policy must have the positive side, must have the negative side. And the policy must also have a way whereby it creates another problem inside the policy. For example, when government removes subsidy, it creates a lot of challenges that most Nigerians have faced. It has solved a particular problem, but it creates another problem. So every policy that you see have positive side and negative side. So it's not that it's a try and error policy, just that the policy may not be an holistic policy to address a particular problem. For instance, we remove subsidy as a policy in our fiscal policy to ensure that government can save money from the subsidy we are paying. But on the other hand, we have caused a lot of problems too, whereby we now have high cost of transportation, which is one of the major problems caused by removal of subsidy. So we just hope that next time when government is doing the policy, it is going to be an holistic approach, whereby if you are doing just solving a particular problem, that problem will not end up creating another problem. Rather, as you are solving the problem, another problem will be hindered from being created out of the problem you are creating. So that's why you could be correct by saying it's a try and error policy, but from an economic angle, it's not a try and error policy. Just as I explained from policy formulation circle, when you are solving a particular problem, expect that another problem may erupt Just like now, they have exempted some company from paying certain tax. Now, that money that those companies that have been paying, how would they be able to cover the gaps now? Because that money was serving a particular purpose. So where will they be able to cover the gaps? Meaning that there is a reduction in the revenue of government because certain companies have stopped paying tax. So it will also affect money that would have been deployed for some developmental purposes in future.
In summary, it is not a try and error policy by se, as no policy comes without its challenges.
Exactly.
So, can this exemption in any way reduce the price of goods and services, and by extension bring the rise in inflation?
That is capital no. It's not the first time that government will be reducing taxes or be trying as much as possible to harmonize taxes. Government has even gone as far as giving businesses, companies, SMEs money. It has never reduced the price of their goods. It has never worked on inflation. Rather, these guys will collect the money and go and use it for something else. So the exemption of taxes will not also reduce the price of their goods, because as I earlier pointed out, there are other challenges they are faced. They are faced with energy challenges, they are faced with transportation costs, they are faced with forex challenges, they are faced with importation and other tariffs they pay at the point of importing. So you have just solved one of their problems. You have not solved the entire problem. So they will keep having issues, and that may not translate into a reduction in the price of their goods, and also may not even improve the quality of their goods as we may expect. But the only thing is that it's just like a social safety net that government have created, so that if it's okay, if you reduce your taxes in this area, it can also help you to put that money that you have been using to pay us for tax, put it back in your business and improve your business. But meanwhile, they have other challenges within their business value chain line.
Nigeria will always be Nigeria.
Exactly.
So as we went down, won't this policy reduce federal government's revenue generation?
Definitely, I've said it will reduce the revenue generation of government, particularly when we know that VAT is one of the huge means whereby government raise money and get more money. So it means that with this exemption, a lot of companies that have been paying VAT will not be paying VAT. It means that when they are going to share the VAT, and you know most times the VAT allocation, the federal government collect about 15%, state government and local government collect 85%. By the time they want to share VAT, maybe for next month or for August, it means it's going to shrink. They may not expect as huge amount they have been collecting in January to June as we'll be expecting in July or August if the implementation of the policy go ahead.
Well, I hope the government listens to this to know what is really happening in the business sector. A very thank you for being part of the show today, Mr. Ade Folarin.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. There has been Mr. Ade Folarin Olamilekon, an economist and lead researcher at Polco Analytics, who is an economic analyst, and this is the size of the program today. Good afternoon, Nigeria. I am Idris Amina.